Amid the ongoing scandal in WWE, some senior executives in the company sell off a large amount of stock. Plus, we're going to reveal an event that Roman Reigns looks to be missing, in addition to Money in the Bank and others. Also, we're going to talk about the UFC and WWE, specifically Vince McMahon's reaction to Israel Adesanya's Undertaker-inspired entrance this past weekend. We have an update on Big E's broken neck, and Shotzi leaves social media after her Money in the Bank performance. All this and more in today's WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. So let's start off talking about everyone's favorite topic, which is, of course, the stock exchange. Yes, I've really hooked you in here, haven't I? Well, it's an interesting story, nevertheless, when it comes to WWE and their senior executives, specifically two of them, because two of WWE's most senior members of staff have sold thousands of shares of WWE stock, with the total sold being worth over $1.5 million. As reported by Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, both WWE CFO, the Chief Financial Officer Frank Riddick, and Executive Vice President Kevin Dunn, who is the man responsible behind production in WWE, sold thousands of their shares in the company last week. Riddick sold 9,090 shares, which at a price of $62.49 per share netted him just over $568,000. Dunn went a little bit further and sold 16,107 shares, which saw him receive just over $1 million. Now, it must be said, it's not unusual, as Tom Jones said, it's not unusual for WWE higher-ups to sell large amounts of stock. They've all done it. Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Kevin Dunn himself, Riddick, they've all done it, and they all do it. Triple H sold over $2 million in stock just last year alone. Now, if anybody does have any spare WWE stock lying around, I'll have it. No, I'm only joking there. It was a bad one. But, I mean, I suppose the reason why people will be talking about it is because, as I mentioned, the ongoing scandal when it comes to WWE and the investigation going on. The stock price is lower than it once was. I recall back in 2018 that the WWE share price got up to $100 per share, and that's big money. Now, since then, it's dropped for a variety of reasons. I remember in 2018 specifically, the drop was because of the controversy surrounding WWE Saudi shows. Then that led into, of course, the pandemic really hit the economy and stock market as well. So it's quite far off that $100 per share price that it once was. And now the controversies made it dip a little bit more. Not a lot. I think people expected it to actually dip quite a lot more, and it hasn't really when it comes to WWE stock price. But again, read into this how you will, because this happens all the time. But could it be senior executives in the company going, with everything that's going on, the stock price is only going to drop even more, and because of that, I'm selling some of my shares now to make that extra money? We'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about Roman Reigns. He's been missing a lot of events and TV shows recently. Another one he could be missing is Extreme Rules. It appears one of WWE's biggest stars, its biggest star, certainly, I was going to say full-time star, but he's not. He's not a full-time star anymore, is set to miss the Extreme Rules premium live event in October, as a newly released poster for the show is missing WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Now, not only that, but Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair and SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan are also nowhere to be seen on the poster. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they won't be at the show, although in the case of Roman Reigns, he likely won't, given the clauses and the updated details of his new WWE deal, the reduced schedule that he signed earlier this year. Instead of Roman, Bianca, or Liv, the poster, which can be seen on social media, has Becky Lynch at the front of it. Also, you've got United States Champion Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins surrounding her, Rhea Ripley, Drew McIntyre, Riddle, they're also on there. Now, it must be said, you can read into posters as how you will. I think when it comes to the women's champion side of things, the Bianca Belair and Liv Morgan, they will be at the event. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be, frankly. And posters change and evolve closer to the time. Look at the original Money in the Bank poster. The original Money in the Bank poster this year had Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. It might have even had Brock Lesnar on it. I don't recall. But, of course, none of them appeared at the event. And Money in the Bank was scheduled to be a stadium show this year. Of course, that didn't happen either. So I would just take it with a pinch of salt. I would say, though, it's probably very, very unlikely that Roman Reigns is actually at the event. I don't see why he would be, considering his current schedule. He's just doing big events. He is a part-time star at this point. His summer schedule is fantastic for the champion. I mentioned this, it might have been in yesterday's video when it comes to I recall when Brock Lesnar was on Raw, when Raw was the A show, when it was the big show, the flagship of WWE, and Brock Lesnar was the Universal Champion for like 18 months. And at the time, of course, he was champion for 18 months, but that meant he was only on TV, really, if you're going to total it all up, for like 3 of those 18 months. And people would complain, oh, Raw, it struggles so much without the champion. But at the time, people said, at least on SmackDown, they've got the WWE champion. Fast forward a few years later, they've got all of this money from television rights deals. They've got $1 billion from Fox. SmackDown's the A show because it's on the biggest network and they're getting the most money from it. Neither show has a full-time champion. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. And they unified the titles full well knowing that Reigns wasn't going to be on TV that much going forward. Neither was Brock. Bizarre, absolutely bizarre booking. I don't know if it's a case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing. I don't know. But it really it still is bizarre to me. Nevertheless, Reigns is not going to be at Extreme Rules most likely. It was interesting this weekend, speaking of Money in the Bank, of course, a big story was the McMahon family being seen at the UFC events. Of course, they were both in the same city. So Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H and Pat McAfee were seen in the crowd as they were watching the fights inside the Octagon. Now, obviously, one of the big things coming out of the event was Israel Adesanya, the UFC middleweight champion, entering the Octagon for his main event fight by paying homage to recent WWE Hall of Fame inductee The Undertaker. Now, Adesanya made his way to the Octagon sporting a hat and urn similar to the Dead Man. You can see it right there. He even used his music. A lot of people were saying, what was Vince McMahon's reaction to Israel's entrance at the event? Well, on the latest episode of the Pat McAfee show, SmackDown commentator McAfee described what it was like watching Adesanya's entrance while sitting next to the McMahon family. He said, quote, "I'm sitting there and the obvious question is, did you guys know this was coming? Did we just so happen to be here when one of these things happened? I don't think they knew that was coming," McAfee said. "I'm not saying they were upset about it though. I think they loved that it was happening. At one point I actually looked at Vince and was like, hey, you should think about effing doing this. This seems like a pretty cool thing." Got a big pop out of him. I guess Israel Adesanya is a big WWE fan. We were honored to be over there and got a chance to sit directly behind his corner. Now, since imitating The Undertaker, Adesanya has been on record saying that he'd love to try his hand in the WWE ring one day, and maybe that will happen, we don't know. So it would appear that WWE didn't actually know it was going to happen, or certainly Vince McMahon and Triple H, etc. didn't know it was going to happen. I don't know. It seems too much of a coincidence. Maybe Adesanya had heard that he was going to be there. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it was cool entrance, and it's not the first time that a UFC event has used WWE music. They've used WWE music several times before. I can think of multiple occasions where that's happened, whether it was Kurt Angle's music or The Rock's music, etc. So it's been used multiple times. I think Triple H's music might have been used too. They don't really care about licensing music or anything like that. So, but it does feel certainly coincidental, doesn't it, that you've got one of the most, if not the most iconic entrants in WWE history being replicated, and the guy who just so happened to create that character is sitting in the crowd with his family. Read into it what you will. Big E, of course, is still on the shelf after he suffered that broken neck injury earlier this year. Now, it's been a little over a week since Big E revealed he could perform certain movements following the removal of his neck brace he has worn since suffering a broken neck earlier this year. The former WWE champion has now provided a new update regarding his condition. As with most situations, Big E's 4th of July tweet was about his road to recovery, and it had a bit of good news and a bit of bad news. He said, quote, "Update. My C1 isn't ossifying, forming bone quite yet. The current plan is to get more scans at the 1 year mark and see how it's progressing. The great news is I feel tremendous and surgery is off the table." Now, Big E, of course, has been out of action since March 11, 2022, where he landed on his head outside of the ring while taking a belly-to-belly suplex from Ridge Holland. He was rushed to hospital, where it was determined that he had fractured his C1 and C6 vertebrae, but avoided surgery as there was no spinal cord or ligament damage. Just days later, Big E was released from the hospital, posted footage of himself walking around his neighborhood to reassure fans that he was okay. Now, this is unfortunately not the first update Big E has provided, revealing that his C1 vertebrae wasn't healing as quickly as he would like. In May, the New Day member revealed that he would be keeping his neck brace on for an additional 4 to 6 weeks to help the C1 vertebrae heal, with the hopes of also avoiding fusion surgery. He would later post a video of him throwing the neck brace in the trash in early June. But despite this injury, and I guess this is the feel-good story coming out of this, Big E has remained in good spirits despite this and even made a few public appearances since suffering the injury. It just looks like, I mean, sometimes with broken necks, they're always serious because the neck injury is just unbelievably serious. Sometimes with neck injuries, the recovery process actually can be somewhat quick, and I think that's what they'd maybe hoped with Big E, that it wasn't too serious and maybe he would be back in, 3 months, something like that. This does look like a long-term one, and who knows if he'll ever be back again. As he mentioned, he was very, very lucky. Not only is he lucky to be avoiding surgery, but as his doctor told him, he was lucky to be avoiding a stroke, possibly even worse, paralysis, death. So the fact that he's able to move his extremities, walk around, that is still definitely a win in my book, and certainly avoiding surgery is another. Hopefully, again, the C1 vertebrae does start to ossify, form bone again, and he can really get on that road to recovery. But necks and spinal cords and backs, there's still so much we really don't know, and medical science has to catch up. Edge was on the shelf in terms of he was forced to retire for years with a serious neck injury that at one point was determined if you fall over, you're going to get paralyzed. Fast forward now, he's a regular WWE superstar once again. We just don't know. Science creeps up and evolves over time. So fingers crossed Big E can come back soon. Finally, Shotzi is taking a break from social media. Now, this is after the Money in the Bank Premium Live event this past weekend. Shotzi competed in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, of course. Now, given their very unpredictable matches and dangerous matches, not every spot will go according to plan, and that wasn't the case this past weekend. Shotzi was caught up in a particular move that saw both her and fellow competitor Alexa Bliss land awkwardly in the ring. Now, this incident led some fans to lash out on Shotzi, at Shotzi on social media, saying that, among other things, she should be fired for her performance. Now, Shotzi responded to those fans on Twitter on Monday, saying that she was not a wrestle robot and noting that there are 3 things she cares about coming out of the match. Is everyone safe? Did everyone have fun? Did the crowd react? She confirmed that nobody got hurt, but that she did have had to have a few friends wipe tears off her face in the aftermath of reminding herself who she was. Now, just a day later, Shotzi appears to have deleted her Twitter account. Look, she'll clearly be back. The thing is, and I actually nowadays, to be honest, try to do my best to stay off wrestling social media because it's just the worst. I mean, it really is just the worst. The whole WWE versus AEW thing drives me insane. I still can't wrap my head around accounts dedicated to trying to convince fans not to watch a certain product, and there's WWE ones and AEW ones. Like, if you don't want to watch it, that's fine, but this sort of petition to convince other people to have the same viewpoint as them is just bizarre to me. I can't. That would the way I equate it to is like Stranger Things, right? That there would be a Stranger Things social media page, and there would be a particular scene and go, that acting sucks. Why would you watch Stranger Things? And then people who are Stranger Things fans will be sitting there going, because I like it. Because I like it. I don't care what the acting's like. I like Stranger Things. It's the same with WWE and AEW. Get over it. Now, when it comes to these stands on social media as well, I'm sure, like the Alexa Bliss stands, you hurt Alexa Bliss, how dare you? It's like, she's fine. Like, get over it. It's okay. Everyone is fine. It's just social media, man. And credit to Shotzi, because it's never wrong to take a break and get out of it, because otherwise you'll go insane. You really will. But anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.